Hi, this is Lauren Cheek from Lornicopia, and today I'm doing a little video about a sonneteer or a troubadour, one of the first men that actually created the art of extensive poetry in English, which I think they borrowed from Spain. That's what I'm originally understanding. It came from music that was used in the Muslim circles in Spain. But anyway, the troubadours came to France, and this guy's a famous troubadour. What's interesting is my ancestor Robert De Chekenhull immersed on King John's land in 1209, and his mother's name was Cecilia. But in this document, this sonneteer or troubadour is singing a song to a wife of a William de Bouville. And the William de Bouville is apparently, this is during the time of John's brother, King Richard. So I assume that this is possibly a brother of Robert, or maybe his father, and maybe the sonnets are about his mother, but it's definitely somebody in my family. And I thought it would be interesting to read this to you and show it to you. Okay, the name of the book is A Literary History of the Troubadours, containing their lives in extracts. And the guy's name is Arnaud Daniel. Arnaud was born in the 12th century in the castle of Ribérac in Périgord. Of poor but noble parents, his taste was not to study, but he was passionately fond of rhyming. Dante, in his treatise on eloquence of the vulgar tongue, after having marked the principal ends of poetry, which he calls honest, useful, and agreeable, adds that the agreeable was the portion of Arnaud, and that he excelled particularly in singing the praise of love. And in his 26th canto of the Inferno, he says that the poet modeled his language in the most superior manner, and that his tender verse and his romantic prose surpassed everything that had appeared before of the same kind. Petrarch speaks of him as the most celebrated of all the provincial poets and calls him the great master of love. He even imitated and borrowed a verse from one of his sonnets, the only provincial to whom he has done that. His success and reputation were perhaps in great part owing to a new kind of composition called sestino, of which he was the inventor, the merit of which consisted in the difficulty of certain combinations of verses repeated in a certain order, among many obscure pieces not to be understood. The following is an example, rather more intelligible. Most of his pieces were sonnets addressed probably to the wife of William Bouville, whom he admired. He calls her my dear hope, or my more than dear hope. Count Raymond de Toulouse created 200 knights in full court he held in 1244 on his return from Italy. Among these were a William de Bouville, probably the son or grandson of this lady, basically saying that the sonnets are written about. So let's read the sonnet. And he says in his book, "Let's hear our poet." And this is the poem, which would have been set to song, of course. "The return of spring invites my song, and the enamel of the meadow animates it with all the gay and beautiful variety of flowers, but the flowers that I gather shall have love for their fruit, as they have joy for their grain, and their perfume shall surpass that divine odor which the month of May spreads over the meadows. I love the most beautiful woman in the world," speaking of Miss de Bouville. "I have frequented many courts. The pleasure I receive from gay tents, refreshing alcoves, and magnificent balconies, where the ladies sit and assist at the tournaments, bears no proportion to my joy in beholding her. I have masses said, and lamps and tapers burnt, to render her propitious. For she is next to God, the object of my worship. I should prefer the delight of pleasing her, the possession of those countries watered by the Ebro, the Meander, and the Tigris, to all the glory of Alexander, to the honor of being emperor or pope. Yes, Paris was less fond of Helen, and Atalanta was less beloved by Meleager. My love is shut up within my heart, and she who inspires it knows it not. Alas, How should she? When at a distance I have 100 things to say. When I approach her, I know not where to begin. I sigh in vain. I pursue her with the swiftness of the hare, yet my approach is like the slow and heavy steps of an ox. To avoid the raillery of those who mock me useless constancy, a thought occurs. I may feign that I am favorably treated. I shall be believed, for women are easily softened. So says Ovid, and all the gallant poets. The lady heard of this and was offended. Arnold excused himself, protesting that he was in joke. After all, he said, was my fault greater? I am as worthy a compassion as the penitent thief. Could I obtain the object dear, I would love her 1,000 times better than ever hermit, monk, or priest loved God. I should be even content when I sure of possessing her in old age. But how distant, how tedious would those intermediate years appear. The lady had given him some hopes. He accuses the sun of its slow progress and compares himself to the traveler who approaching the famous mountain of Averine, finds it to recede in proportion as he seems to draw near it. At last the term of his sufferings was completed, and he received from the hands of a love mistress as much his own as he had ever been her. He represents her, so pure was his idea of love under the emblem of the castle, presented to him without being subject to any acknowledgement. He wishes they had joined to the freehold the small revenue of a few kisses, and fears he shall die unless he obtains the favor. Isn't that like the sweetest thing ever? Poor boy had it bad for a cheek woman. They weren't called cheeks then, but a debut filling. Thanks for watching. Lauren Cheek from Lornacopia.